So first, here is Representative Maxine Dexter of Oregon with her, well, just listen.
I've been told I have 30 seconds, so I am going to tell you that we do have to, I don't swear in public very well, but we have to Trump. Please don't tell my children that I just did that.
With her, well, just listen. I mean, don't tell your husband either.
I've been told I have 30 seconds, so I am going to tell you that we do have...
look, Trump he gets a lot of threats, but out of all the threats that Trump has ever gotten, this has to be the most terrifying for him. You know, that woman looks like she means it. That woman, she's on a mission. She has to. She says she has to. She has to F Trump. I mean, that's what she said. She must. She's overwhelmed by her carnal desire for President Trump. If I were Trump, I would be right now. And look, I like to think that that I can be brave in some situations. But if I were Trump, I'd be holed up in a White House bunker right now, surrounded by Secret Service, hiding under a table, trembling in fear, knowing what this woman intends to do to me. So that's pretty bad.
So, you guys might be able to see me, but there's something weird going on. OBS is not, it's not showing on screen anywhere. I don't know what's going on. This is really weird. There it is. Okay, what the fuck happened? Okay, I mean, okay, so just quickly, I have two monitors, and sometimes things are kind of, half on, half off one screen or another, but it wasn't on either one. And it was open because I went to try to reopen it, and it said it was already running, and okay, where is it? And I keep clicking the little icon on the taskbar, nothing comes up. I right-click it, click open, and it is not coming up on anything. So I just used the hotkey to switch screens, and then it popped up. So, okay, I didn't get to see much after the countdown, so that was really, I was really nervous and confused for a few seconds there. Sorry about that. That really took me off guard. Anyway. What's going on? Happy Saturday, or Sunday now, everybody. Jesus Christ, look at where I'm at. Oh, boy. Yeah, no, yesterday I was really seriously planning to do the show, and I swear by the time it was around a couple hours before I was about to go on, I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. And before I was even able to make a decision, I was out cold. I was done. Like, I'd been up way too long at that point. I'll admit that was my own fault. I was up for way too long than I should have been, and it was partly for doing stuff to actually get the. There was some stuff I picked up on online that I ordered and was delivered, and it was stuff I was going to use for. It's video related, so I thought, okay, well, let me set it up. It took way too long to set up. I didn't expect it to take that long. I had been. Trying to clean out space in my room to make sure everything was going to fit, and it just turned into a nightmare. Anyway, so that obviously didn't work, but I've said before, if there's an episode I missed during the week, which there wasn't just one, but if there's episodes I missed during the week, I'll at least do Sunday episode to make up for it. And so here we are. And I got to tell you, I couldn't go and miss at least the show that was at least close enough to this stuff, because my God, it's pretty pathetic how far things have gone at this point. I don't know when it's going to end. I don't know when they're just going to accept that nobody likes what they're doing right now. The majority of the country is behind Trump's most recent actions as far as relating to the border, as far as relating to deportations, as far as relating to the war in Gaza and the war in Ukraine. And the majority of the people are also behind cuts to government agencies like USAID, which, as I played last week, that's only a partial list, but as I played last week, all the things that USAID is spending taxpayer money on, they don't seem to like that very much, as I expected they wouldn't. And for some reason, they're stuck on these weird points, which we'll go into more detail on today, because they always have excuses, and the excuses are ones that are arguments that you could make, but they try to use them as sort of panic buttons to push to get people worried that some impending doom is coming, and if we don't do something quick, all these things are going to, all these things are going to disappear, and then our democracy will be over. And the whole freaking ridiculous. When the line started that that Trump threatens our democracy, or the line about our democracy is in jeopardy, or however they phrased it, and however they continue to phrase it, it's one of the worst and most pathetic lines that could come from a group of people, especially when you consider what they've been doing over the last 8 years, and probably culminating in the fact that they're so for democracy, yet they didn't ask the voters at all who they wanted the nominee for president to be. They removed the nominee that the voters voted for, even though they weren't really given exactly much of a choice, because they blocked at least RFK Jr., and they also blocked, I think there was one other candidate that was wanting to run in the primary for the Democrat Party, and they blocked anyone trying to run in the primary and just selected Joe Biden. So any state that had a choice basically had a choice of vote Joe Biden or no choice, or fill in the blank, I guess. And in a lot of cases, people voted for fill in the blank or no one, which was actually kind of hilarious that in some states, the majority of the Democratic Party voted for no one over Joe Biden. And I mean literally no one. Like, they didn't vote for a presidential candidate. They didn't vote for Biden for it, and that was the only option. Anyway, and then as he becomes the nominee, even though he had the most unfair advantage that you could possibly have, then they decide after the debate with Trump that, we're not going to win with this guy. We got to swap him out. Well, it's got to be Kamala Harris, or they definitely won't vote for us, because that whole deal. I mean, the whole point of putting Kamala Harris as vice president was because they were essentially making a deal with Black Americans that were Democrats, that you put me in charge now, and even though Kamala Harris wasn't particularly popular on the debate stage when she first ran, which she wasn't, because she didn't even make it to the actual first major caucus of the primaries. Everyone refers to the Iowa caucus as kind of the main starting point for the major candidates. But even though she didn't make it that far, we'll make her, look great as a vice president. And then, since Joe probably won't be able to run for a second term because this is just a sort of stopgap president to make sure that we can beat Trump, and then we'll prop up Harris for the next election. Only they realized as they were going along, she's not really the best talker or the best on policy or the best on really anything. I don't know. So it wasn't looking good, but when there's like no choice left and push comes to shove, to hell with the voters. We got to put somebody in, and we kind of made this promise, and no one's going to vote for us if we don't put her in, so we're putting her in. And then the funny part is that the minorities didn't really seem to back that up, and that also, once again, then Obama's speech to quote-unquote the brothers, that really went over like a lead balloon. That was just... So the party that is clinging to this idea that someone's going to destroy our democracy, once again, as I've given as advice to them before, maybe you should look in the mirror a little bit before you start pointing fingers about who's destroying democracy and who's destroying our technically our constitutional republic and our democratic process in our elected representative government. But anyway, just the funny part is that they aren't... Well, we'll go over that in just a minute. But first, that part of the clip that we just watched there was one of their new strategies. We saw, as I played earlier this week, we saw one of their other strategies, harassing, people outside of government agencies that are just there to do their job and trying to name and shame them and humiliate them while they're just basically doing what they're told to prevent a bunch of psychotic weirdos from entering the building. And it is funny because I heard somebody else describe this week. They really are insulted. Like they expect that they're going to be, someone's going to roll out the red carpet for them. There's no problem. You can come in and say whatever you want when, who knows what's going on in that building. If there's people that are actually, working or doing something, or if there's anything else going on in there. But no, they're here for a serious purpose. They have to do that. I mean, I don't know what how they think that was supposed to look, but it didn't look good. I mean, it certainly didn't look good at all. And all they managed to do was, like I said, just basically expose themselves for really not giving a shit about the smaller wage government employees that have to do the crappy jobs and have to be the ones who go out and stop psychotic, big-headed congressional assholes from just barging in and protesting about how we're the ones behind you. Trump's coming to destroy this. Fuck off. But the USAID thing has been really a real it's been a real serious point of contention for a lot of people in the country. But that's just we're just getting started, because I mean there was another round of internal information from a different agency that was coming out. I think it was the Federal Reserve, actually. And I can't remember all the information that came out. I'll probably focus on it in the next episode or at some point next week, because the details weren't really all set in stone too much yet. But there was a lot of information about some really shady shit, of course, going on there, and how much money actually was going out the door, how much money was actually being spent on some of this stuff whenever people were talking about different types of government programs and bureaucracies that are pretty much pointless and serve no one in the entire country at all with their agenda. But yet there they are, and they're spending money on them like there's nothing at all that is an issue. And here's where things get crazy. So let's first go with this, because this is the second half of the intro clip. because as Matt Walsh was discussing, there are 2 clips from that same day. The first one of the lady who wants to fuck Trump. And I have no idea why this lunatic Democrat lady is so intensely focused on this. I mean, I don't know. I think he's got Melania, and I think that, no offense, lady, but I don't think that you even hold a candle in the slightest, even a burnt out candle to Melania Trump. Which, by the way, I'm not like usually focused on first ladies or anything like that, and I didn't know much at all about Melania Trump until she finally started to speak out just after all the crap that happened during Trump's rallies this last campaign season. But there was a few interviews that she finally did, and man, she's a really amazing, down to earth person. I was very, very shocked at how articulate she spoke, even though she wasn't a native English speaker. How honest she appeared. She didn't have any kind of she didn't have any of the sort of telltale signs of somebody who's trying to deceive you, or someone who's trying to play up this role of being more benevolent or more giving or more caring than somebody else or whatever. And also she talked about the differences politically between her and her husband, and that they just don't talk political, which was an amazing thing to hear. I thought that was really cool. But there was this photo shoot she did recently. I can't remember what it was from, but she was and this was one of the more classy photo shoots I've seen in a while of a first lady, or really anybody in government or anything like that, because she had some fashionable clothes on, but they were more business type looking and more I guess very, very professional, and yet very stylish, I guess is the best word, because she's a model, of course she's gonna look good, but she looked really, really, it was an impressive and good looking photo array that was presented. And what was really interesting, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because we saw the incredibly heavily how would you say, cleaned up images of Jill Biden just before the election, and they worked overtime to make her look as good as possible. But then these writers from, I can't remember, some stupid magazine, it was and it was like, of course they would write that, but they were so harsh on Melania Trump. And I remember sitting there thinking, it's one thing to hate Trump so bad that you're going to criticize every single thing he does, even if it's something that you normally would be happy about. Just because Trump did it, it's bad. Even if that's your stance, what's this thing with Melania? Why demonize the wife of the president? I don't understand this one. In the case of Biden, it kind of makes sense, because Biden's not exactly all there. And you also know that Jill Biden was not only was she incredibly forceful about making sure that, Joe and the rest of the White House staff and everybody around them knew that she was going to be making decisions sometime, or whatever it was she did. I don't know. It was very much stepping up to the plate, because if there was somebody who was devastated about getting removed from office, it was Jill Biden, not really Joe. I don't think he cares. His life is probably not going to change much, to be honest. But hers is, and you could tell she was desperately wanting to hold on to that for as long as possible. But so it kind of makes sense in that regard, because it's somebody that wants to be seen and is inserting herself into the process. With Melania, she's never even she's there for really special events, and she's there for Anytime there's something involving her that's a special occasion or whatever. Other than that, she doesn't really show up that much, and so why is it that she's so demonized? I guess the same reason that Trump's kids are so, especially Barron Trump, is so maligned, because God forbid you be the son of President Trump. I mean, like, wow, you're definitely. I mean, and then how sick is that to also be, somebody that is so against racism and so against, people judging you for things beyond your control as far as your outward appearance or where you come from or, anything like that. And here's someone being specifically targeted for all of those things, and two people targeted for all of those things, or more even, like, and because Don Jr. and Eric Trump and all the kids, they're Barron's not, he's too young to really be someone who's out in front of the cameras, but the other two boys are most certainly involved in the process to the point that it would make more sense with them, and they got caught up in the whole Russiagate scandal because of them taking meetings with certain people that were that was part of the whole Russia collusion narrative shit. But ultimately, I still don't see why in Melania's case, or Barron's case, really, for that matter, why they're so heavily targeted, and it's kind of disgusting. But anyway, so once again, back to the fervor of the resistance movement, this intense resistance movement to the Trump campaign or the Trump administration this time around, and the work that Elon's doing. Like, and once again, I forgot. I'll try and look up this clip while we're doing this, because this was something I intended to put into the show today, and I'll try and find it in just a second. But they are going after Elon just about as hard as they're going after Trump, although their strategy is very obvious, and it's something, you could have seen coming from a mile away. But before we get to that, here's the other sight to behold from that same day as the woman who wants to have sex with Trump. This is some other dimwits in the House of Representatives, I believe, for the most part. Or maybe they weren't. Maybe they were just idiots that were there that day. I don't know exactly. But in either case, this is how they are fighting the power. So, I mean, this is I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's going to be all that effective. But if this is the way they want to try, I mean, go for it. And I'll be able to laugh the whole way. So, here's the piece de resistance of the Democrats right here. Hold on just a sec. Yeah, we'll go to a different screen for this. All right. Oh, whoops. I did it again. Okay, there we go. Now I got it. Okay, so yeah, here we go. And is that? Oh. All right, here we go.
It's 2 minutes long. I don't know if we're going to play the whole thing. We probably can't. But I challenge you to not hit mute. Don't turn off the show. You're going to want to. I'm warning you ahead of time. You're going to want to. You're going to want to take your phone or your computer and throw it into a bathtub full of acid if you happen to have one in the house.
You will.
But I challenge you to stick with it. We'll get through this together, and we will be better for it. Okay? Here it is.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? We'll fight against Josh. We'll fight Elon. and scab within our walls. We'll fight from dawn to dusk. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me. Which side are you on?
There's another
Which
reason I
side
actually
are you on?
specifically really
Trump's
hate
coming
this
for
one.
our
And I'll explain in a
unions.
second.
He wants us all to
Aside from how
fail.
literally
He
terrible
wants
it
us
is.
to bow to him, but we want him in jail. Oh, which side are you on?
Okay.
Which
Just
side
stop it,
are you on?
Thank you.
I mean, I'm on the side of the deaf community. That's the side I want to be on. That's who I want to be
Yeah.
with. You know, I saw a video recently of I think it was a Siberian husky, a dog trying to sing, and well, he was just howling, but someone was playing the piano and they said it was singing. It's not really singing, but he was a significantly better singer than any of the people in that video, and because that sounded like 50 huskies with mental illnesses drowning in a river while
Yeah.
being eaten by piranhas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Or maybe that's just the fate that I wish I would have suffered instead of having to hear that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
I'm depressed now. I actually feel sick in my soul after. I do. I feel this deep well of despair in the depths of my soul after listening to that. And I know we said that we'd get through it and we'd be better for it, but we're not. We're not better. I was wrong. We are not better for it. I actually think that all of our lives are ruined now. I think I just ruined your life and my own.
Yeah.
Because your dreams will be
Don't worry about
haunted
it,
by
Matt.
the sound of boomer feminists singing so off pitch that it actually
Right.
causes brain damage when you hear it. And I already had brain damage, so I can't afford this. I cannot afford to have suffered this, but I just did. And wow.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. I can't even think anymore. I've totally lost my train of thought. This is really the left's problem in a nutshell, illustrated in both of those videos. And the problem is they can't sing, and they secretly want to have sex with Donald Trump. I mean, that's the surface level problem. But what's underneath it is that they're just lost at sea, and they have no message. And then so you end up with this. I think we just need to quit while we're ahead.
That would be good advice, actually, too. If they would listen to it, that would be really good advice. But I was going to say, there's one particular reason that stuck out to me when I heard that, whatever it was. I won't even call it a singing. But the reason is because Dropkick Murphys did a cover of that song. Actually, it's really good. And lo and behold, they've kind of ruined it for me now. So, because, every time I hear it now, I'm going to think of a bunch of very ear-splitting, horribly singing congresswomen that have no pitch or no vocal skills whatsoever to why sing. There was that weird black lady that was doing it last time, and now these idiots are doing it. What's with the singing? Is that like, especially when you can't sing, what the hell makes you think that this is powerful messaging? What about this was like I can't figure it out. I can't figure out how that comes across in anyone's head as like, man, this is really going to win us over in the demographics of now. It's like, forget about all the wasteful spending, the immigration, the inflation, all that stuff. Who cares about that? But when they hear this, oh boy, they're going to be in trouble, man. I don't understand the thought process in the slightest from people like this that have way too much of a sense of of greater ability or skills or whatever it is that this is going to go over well. I don't understand, but anyway, the point though also is that what are they doing? What is it? When did it come to this? And one thing you notice as time goes on, and this is going to be highlighted by the main clip for this episode. They're not ever addressing one very specific thing, one really critical thing. Where's the money going? As we talked about last time, we know where the money was going, at least in part. We know some very specific examples. We know what they were doing and where, and we don't know exactly why, but we can guess at that part. But most importantly, we know that who benefited, and I would say that a lot in most cases, not even the people that were the ones receiving this so-called aid from the United States were benefiting in the slightest from what it was they were getting. I mean, I doubt that the Iraqis were suddenly moved by the fact that they were able to show Sesame Street to their children or something. I mean, what caused this to be something so important? They thought they needed to do it, and then when it gets exposed, they don't even raise any point in defense of it. I mean, I know why they can't, because it's indefensible, but like at the same time, they're going to get mad about it because Elon Musk is doing it, and because Trump is doing it, and because that was the pledge. That was what I was going to look up. Because I for one big point to it that they have been so highly invested in the idea, and this people could see this coming a mile away. This was a surprise to literally no one, but you could tell that this was an obvious heavy push to. Ah, damn it! Obviously, a heavy push to get Elon Musk and Donald Trump to be butting heads or get them in a situation where they're at odds with each other. That's the whole point behind the whole President Musk line that they're constantly giving, which is so, oh, jeez. It's really like, at this point, what do you think you're accomplishing? You think that's actually working? Because I haven't seen any signs of that. I even heard somebody respected that I respect, trying to suggest that that when Elon was in the Oval Office and was talking to those reporters about things that they found in Doge and how it was pretty much inexcusable that we'd be spending money in these areas, and how hang on, you guys, I'm gonna have to take this. I might be right back. Hold on. Okay, all right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I was waiting for the basically something was well, I knew someone was coming to drop off some stuff today, and I just didn't know when, and I thought it was maybe going to be during the stream, but I had no idea. So I was going to mention something at first, but I was like, I don't know. It just probably won't come up. And then it does. So anyway, sorry about that. But yeah. So as I was saying, there was a clip that was, I tried to make sure I had it, and I completely forgot to have it ready because I thought it was pretty hilarious that out of all the effort they've spent trying to drive a wedge between Elon and Trump, that it was one of those things that was obvious to both of them from the start. They knew it was coming. They knew to expect it. And they were essentially at the point of just more or less laughing it off because it just seems such a pathetic and desperate attempt at this point that they didn't even really seem to take it seriously. And that may have been potentially one of the most soul-crushing things that the Democrats would have been forced to actually see happen, because this has been one of the biggest things they've been banking on this whole time, was that we're going to drive a wedge between them, and we're going to create a power struggle. We'll call him President Elon, and that'll really get under Trump's skin because he's an egomaniac, and he won't like that. And they just are, they're talking about it and joking and laughing, and it's like, yeah, we knew this was going to happen, and I mean, it's not, it's completely just an absolute desperate move on their part, but it's not like it's gonna work. We're completely unfazed by this. It just seems stupid. It was hilarious hearing. I'll have to find the clip maybe for the next episode, but yeah, that was when I saw that, I was like, okay, all right, this is. I didn't expect they were really ever going to, it's like if they can do all the things they already did to Trump and him still, keep his head on like he has been and not have any issue with making the decisions he's made, picking the cabinet he picked. I just noticed that I think it's official. Kash Patel looks like it was, it looks like he was confirmed. And man, that's some good news. It was really amazing. I watched Bobby Kennedy's announcement after he was confirmed, and I gotta say, if you have a chance to see it, I'm not gonna. It's super short, so I'm not gonna play it or anything. But I honestly was slightly tearing up a little bit at his speech he gave, because he was the way he spoke about how honored he was to get the position, and how he had been hoping for to be put in a position like this for like 20 years now, and the only person that was ever honest and what's the word? Was big enough to keep their word about what they're going to do. That was pretty much what he was alluding to. Was Donald Trump, they never had a contract. They never had any formal agreement. They had a gentleman's handshake, and Trump said he was going to do it. And he did it, and it was like, and Trump was standing in the background, and honestly, even I'd never seen a look on his face. He gives that big, really big grin that he'll give when he's listening to someone that he's nominated or that he's vouched for, that is saying something to to say they appreciate what he's done or whatever, or say something that they've been able to accomplish due to being in the position that they're in. He'll give that really big grin, but there was something there this time where it seemed like it was more than just your typical political move. It was really out of a serious and genuine desire to actually really help people on a level that's super personal, and especially for RFK, the concern that he feels is so real. I mean, you don't bring all these giant companies to court for something that you think is both legally and morally awful, and accuse them of those things in open court over and over and over again, and end up winning in most cases. You don't do that unless you have a real serious commitment to trying to make a serious change in the way that things are going, and in something that you feel is a real serious injustice. So, and it's true when you look at the statistics of not just childhood obesity, and not just obesity among the general public, but of chronic illness, especially when you look at the amount with the type of medical and scientific technology that we have today, and the fact that there are so many cases where they can't tell the root cause for certain illnesses or certain conditions, and they can't point to anything that concrete as to why that would suddenly spring up in someone completely healthy, and just that would suddenly just occur. I mean, there's got to be a reason for it, and especially there's got to be a reason why our country is the country that leads the world in a lot of these sorts of at least in the more modern first world, really heavily industrialized countries that are the G7 countries, especially. Why there would be such a massive difference in us versus the rest of the world in those places, but there's obviously something to it. So what is it? Who knows? But there's definitely reason to ask the question. And I think that's the most disheartening aspect, is why would people not be interested in this? Why would they not want to find out? Well, there's one good reason, and one really only good reason, which is there's something they're trying to protect or hide, and ultimately that seems like it's probably at the root of it. But anyway, that was a really awesome moment, and I'll probably pull that up next week. But anyway, today I didn't mention this at the beginning, but this is since we're on a Sunday episode, and because I started late, and I don't have a ton of stuff except for more or less kind of news that's been going on, at least through part of the week. So it's nothing, fresh off the news. What's the word I'm looking for here? It's nothing that's like, just breaking or anything. There's a better way to describe it. But I did want to play this because this is essentially, this kind of encapsulates my biggest point about what's going on with Doge and what's going on with the exposure of all of these programs that are government funded. Almost all of them are taking place in foreign countries. And I have no idea, but I would guess that in the majority of them, they're not exactly the kind of people who would be jumping at the opportunity to have a robust and open open group of people within their countries to be accepting of the idea that if you're a biological male but feel like you should have been born a female, then we'll just chop you up in surgery and voila, you'll be a woman. This transgender ideology especially is something they won't be particularly just dying to integrate into their societies, nor would a lot of the things that were being pushed. DEI, that's a great example, especially because if you look at a lot of the countries that a lot of stuff was happening in, these aren't countries with people like America where, excuse me, God damn, got a frog in my throat. They're not the kinds of countries that are giant, what we used to call the mixing pot, or melting pot, excuse me, of multiculturalism and people of all different backgrounds coming together. This is mostly countries that stay pretty ethnically similar in terms of their history and in terms of their modern society. And they're not like a land of this extreme opportunity, or at least a country that has that reputation the same way that the U.S. does. So there's not really any reason to be incorporating DEI programs either. And so essentially the point is we're sending all this money to all these countries to implement American-centric ideology that really even a lot of Americans don't agree with. And yet that's the political focus of so many leftists in government today. So it makes sense people would be asking a question, why, when we're so heavily in debt and so much of our population is either living paycheck to paycheck or falling behind or is in complete and total bankruptcy or in complete and total poverty or completely homeless. We've got so many problems here at home, and yet shoveling more money out the door to countries that are not even particularly going to be very, very enthusiastic about entertaining any of these ideas in their country, and yet we're doing it anyway. So here's Senator Kennedy, who one of my favorite members of Congress, discussing exactly what it is that that he thinks is the main issue behind why people in the Congress are so hostile towards Elon Musk and Doge, and why everyone's focused on criticizing Elon Musk and Donald Trump, but there's something completely missing out of the discussion. And that is, of course, the spending and why it's happening. So I'm going to pull that clip up and we'll close on this because, like I said, we're going to have a kind of shorter episode today. There's not a lot to talk about, but I meant to play this clip earlier in the week, and combination of the couple episodes I had being, well, one of them I fell asleep for. One of them was my return episode, which I was also extremely tired for. And the other one went for about 3 hours, and it was packed already, so I couldn't fit this in there. But anyway, let's get this one up and running, and then we will... here we go. And we'll go ahead and play this one, and then we'll briefly discuss it at the end, and then we'll close out. So, yeah, I think I'll just do it like this. Here we go.
President Trump ran for president on a number of issues. One of the issues he ran on, he said it almost every day. He said, if you elect me president, I'm going to go through the entire budget and review all the spending, line by line. If I heard him say that once, I heard him say it 1,000 times. And that's what he's been doing. He went out and appointed, through an executive order, Elon Musk, who some people like him, some don't, but he's not a dummy. He's a very successful business person. He's got a top secret security clearance. President Trump issued an executive order, and he turned to Mr. Musk, and he said, Mr. Musk, I want you to do for me what I said I was going to do in the election. I want you to go through all the spending, line by line. Now, let me ask you something, Mr. President. How are you going to review the spending without reviewing the spending?
Got ash on my keyboard.
How are you going to audit the spending by an agency without auditing the agency? That's what I mean when I say common sense is illegal in Washington, D.C. That's what Mr. Musk is doing. He's put together a crackerjack team, and
like
they're
big
going
balls.
through everybody's spending line by line, item by item. And my Democratic colleagues are very, very, very upset. And they've been very eloquent. They've talked about the process, and President Trump's executive order supposedly violates the Constitution. And they've accused Mr. Musk of having conflicts of interest. And so I've heard people say he's sitting over there with a notepad copying down everybody's Social Security number, and he's going to go use it
to
make money.
Really rich.
I mean, people in this town, not just my Democratic colleagues, they're really upset. They've never said anybody question their spending. But that's what Mr. Musk is doing. But you know, I've listened. This has been going on for a week. People have been screaming like they're part of a prison riot. Oh, my God, look at what Musk is doing. He's looking at the spending. And I've listened to people talk about the process and debate whether it's constitutional and discuss how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pin. But you know what?
That's one of his classic
I haven't heard
lines.
one single person who's upset with President Trump or Mr. Musk talk about what he's found. They don't want to talk about
Oh, of course not.
the spending porn, the waste of taxpayer money that he's found.
There we go. That's better. Oh, no.
I mean, that's the point of all this.
There we go.
I tell you who is interested. The American people. The people in America who get up every day and go to work and obey the law and pay their taxes and try to educate their kids and try to do the right thing by their kids and try to save a little money for retirement, and have had to live through 20% inflation under President Biden.
Yeah, that's
They
been fun,
understand
hasn't
what
it?
Musk is doing. They understand spending porn and wasting taxpayer money.
Spending porn. I really like that
Mr.
one. That
Musk
was good.
started with the USAID. That handles a lot of foreign aid for America. American people are very generous. In our country, you know, when you're homeless, we'll house you. When you're hungry, we'll feed you. In our country, when you're too poor to be sick, we'll pay for your doctor. And we send a lot of money overseas to help our world's neighbors. And the USAID is in charge, in large part, of that. But I'll tell you what Mr. Musk discovered. I find it fascinating. He discovered
Everything under here is dirty.
that the
I need to clean
American
this in a second.
taxpayers are giving money to Afghanistan. He found that we are giving money to Yemen. He found that we are giving money to Syria. I didn't know that. Some of our foreign aid is going to Yemen, Afghanistan, Syria. He found that the USAID has 10,000 people, 10,000 people, employees. And every year they give away $40 billion.
Jeez.
Mr. Musk also found, and I'm not saying that all of this money is wasteful. I'm not. Some of this money, I'm sure, does some good. That's why Secretary Rubio is going to revamp the department and separate the good from the bad. But this is the kind of stuff Mr. Musk
He's
found.
been very effective in the trips
He
he's made
found
so
that
far.
the USAID gave money to support electric vehicles in Vietnam. Our money, taxpayer money. He found that USAID gave money to a transgender clinic in India. I didn't know that. I bet you the American people didn't know that. He found that
I didn't.
the USAID gave $1.5 million to a Serbian LGBTQ group called Grupa Izladaji. I probably mispronounced that. My apologies. Anyway, they got $1.5 million to, quote, advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business community.
Oh, I'm sure they love that.
What else did Mr. Musk found that my colleagues don't want to talk about? Well, he reviewed a study and then went and checked it. The study was done by the Middle East Forum. They found that USAID spent $164 million to support radical organizations around the world. We're not talking Cub Scout troops here. We're talking about radical organizations around the world. They gave $122 million of that to groups aligned with foreign terrorist organizations.
How about that?
Our taxpayer money.
Not the first time
According
either.
to this report in Mr. Musk, the USAID has given millions of dollars to, quote, organizations in Gaza controlled by Hamas.
That's right.
Why aren't my colleagues talking about that? Recipients of the money, they found, have, quote, called for their lands to be cleansed from the impurity of Jews. That's who we're giving foreign aid to.
Well, that's who was running
What else? I'm not going to spend my whole time talking about
major
this,
institutions
but nobody else is talking
higher
about
learning.
it. They're just talking about the process and Mr. Musk, and he's a mean guy, and
He's a mean guy.
he shouldn't be looking at our spending. Well, he is. And I kind of find what he's found out interesting. He found that we gave $2 million, USAID did, for sex changes in Guatemala.
Ah, yes, of course.
He found that we gave $20 million to produce a new Sesame Street show in Iraq.
Ah, there we go. That's what I was talking about.
He found that we gave $4.5 million of taxpayer money to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. He found that we gave $10 million, USAID did, of meals to an al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group called the Nusra Front. Mr. Musk found that we gave $7.9 million of taxpayer money to a project that would teach Sri Lanka, a bunch of journalists in Sri Lanka, to teach them how to avoid binary gendered language. I don't know what the hell binary gendered language is. I think I do. You think most taxpayers would support that? Why aren't we talking about that? The USAID gave $1.5 million to promote LGBT advocacy in Jamaica.
Yeah, I'm
They
sure the
gave
Jamaicans are
$1.5
really,
million to rebuild
really invested
the
in that one,
Cuban
too.
media ecosystem. They gave $1.5 million for, quote, art for inclusion of people with disabilities in Belarus.
Jeez.
Another $3.9 million for LGBT causes in Macedonia. $8.3 million for equity and inclusion education in Nepal. I could go all night. And many of my colleagues are upset. They're really mad at Mr. Musk. Hell, I think we ought to give him a medal. All he's doing is what President Trump said he was going to do. President Trump said he's going to audit the spending. So Trump goes and hires Musk, again with the top secret security clearance. Nobody can quibble with his intelligence, you know.
Oh, AOC
the
can.
guy's as smart as Einstein's cousin.
Although I really...
he's a very successful businessman. Some say he's the richest guy in the world.
I don't have the words.
And
for
he's
that.
doing the auditing. And, man, he's finding a lot of stuff. I call it spending porn. Now, I'm not saying everything that USAID does is wasted. But I'm saying a lot of it is. A hell of a lot of it is. And we ought to be on the floor of this United States Senate thanking Mr. Musk. And we ought to be asking him to go through every agency and look at everybody's budget.
Amen.
Everybody's budget.
Amen.
That's what the American people want.
That
They don't want to talk
right.
about process. They don't want to continue with the Washington way. They want to save some money.
So that encapsulates the point perfectly that I was getting at, which was that not one person in Congress who is throwing this massive temper tantrum about Donald Trump and Elon Musk and how terrible it is. This is unconstitutional and da da da. Not one of them is talking at all. Not one of them has brought up one point. They've said generic statements like this is to maintain our relationship with this country and that country. Really, I think there's probably better ways to maintain good relations with certain countries than pushing our fringe leftist political figures' ideology into their country and spending a shit ton of money on it, because like only a country as completely like you have to be on a level of security that we're not even on and as in terms of financial stability. You have to be on a level that's so secure in that regard that you are coming up with ways to spend money and justifying it by saying that this is a global problem that we need to have our partners and our allies on board for. Like, cultures differ around the world and they have different values. And I guarantee you, like almost every country that they try this stuff in, even if, while they're there, they smile and put on a happy face and say, yeah, that thank you for coming. As soon as you leave, you're like, geez, those Americans, they're like, that's the kind of stuff that gets us laughed at and turned into the world's biggest joke. It's also the kind of thing that makes Vladimir Putin enter Ukraine without a worry. It's the kind of thing that causes October 7th to happen because the U.S. is off in some fantasy world pushing some ridiculous agenda about transgender rights that makes no sense. It's why it's why there's I heard the stat yesterday, there were 4 hostages released back to America from Gaza while Biden was in office, and just in the short time Trump has been in his office, there's been 12 released. And it's, I mean, the proof's in the pudding right there. There's not much you can argue with results when it comes to that kind of change, but people have, stated this, and it's an obvious statement, but there's a reason why Putin is discussing ending the war, and Zelensky is even discussing ending the war, and that Hamas and Israel are having a ceasefire, which looks like it's not going to last much longer, but it's not going to last much longer on the terms of Israel's decision that we're not going to let you just keep threatening us with this human shield of our own people that are either dead. You're not even, first of all, they don't even release the dead people back to Israel. That's how despicable Hamas is. They won't allow the remains to return home. But that's also assuming that they have, because it amazes me how many people have been returned alive, even though some of them, you see some groups of the people that have come back and they look like they were barely clinging to life in captivity. And so, and the amount of time that's gone by, I've said this before, it's just like, you don't return home from that and go back to a normal life and have everything go into a situation where everything's just fine again. No, that's a lifetime of trauma that is going to take a lifetime of treatment. It's life destroying, and so it's a great thing. It's an amazing thing to see the reunited people get this moment to really, really celebrate the fact that their loved ones are returning home, and beyond all hope, they've actually managed to get their loved ones back. But like, for example, one of them I heard today actually was someone whose child was born after he was already in captivity, and it was something like 2 months after he was captured by Hamas, and he finally got to see it was a daughter, and finally got to see his daughter after he returned. But that's what's been taken from these people, and it's not like that's something that you could just kind of say, yeah, we returned them, and everything's fine. Besides the fact that what the absolute barbaric monsters did on the actual day itself, and so there's not, there's a ceasefire now, but this is not like a situation that's resolved in the slightest, and it is a shame for anyone who is living in the region that is stuck, dealing with this kind of thing, but at the same time, it's like there's got to be a solution that's going to have to come up. That's going to be a permanent way to make sure that this type of thing, first off, doesn't happen again, and secondly, that the message is sent loud and clear that we're not going to allow people who would be capable of and willing to commit acts that are so incredibly brutal, I can't even talk about them. We're not going to just live with the threat of those people right next to us all the time. Sorry. But it's, it's not feasible. It's just not feasible. And when, people don't seem to understand this, but this was the situation that had been long in the works because of the fact that, once again, Israel had been getting incoming rocket fire from Gaza for years, years and years and years, and they hadn't done anything to retaliate to the Gaza Strip except to use Iron Dome to shoot down the rockets. The only damage that came to Gaza at the time was when the shitty rockets that Hamas cobbled together out of scrap metal and whatever kind of fueling they could use was ineffective at launching and landed right shortly after it was launched and landed right in the middle of Gaza because they have, they're making shitty rockets, and some of them are going to misfire and some of them are going to just drop off and explode right next to their targets. And they have been doing it for years behind hospitals, behind shopping malls, behind residential areas, behind schools, behind, they specifically have done this for years by hiding behind civilians. And so when the Israelis go in to attempt to eliminate people who had come in and literally tortured to death their citizens, they're trying the best that they can not to kill innocent people, but the tactics of Hamas involve making that very difficult. That's why, and people are mad at Israel for being the ones to do the killing. I think the people more at fault are the people who put them in harm's way. Put them in harm's way because they're too cowardly to actually make a stand themselves. And that's why the idea that anybody would celebrate an organization like this that are so cowardly that they can't even, it was, when you look at something like the Vietnam War, they weren't cowards. They were people who were using guerrilla tactics and knew the land, but they didn't take innocent people from North Vietnam and put them in the middle of the fighting and hide behind them while they took shots. So it's not like it's even guerrilla warfare. It's literally using human shields of civilians in the area that you clearly have no regard for. So the idea that Hamas is some group of freedom fighters trying to save Islamic people from the evils of Israel is the most pathetic excuse for an example of why Israel is actually the one in the wrong, and Hamas is just trying to fight to protect the Palestinian land. And it's like, no, they're trying to do everything they can to eliminate the Jewish people and take over Israel and make it a no longer a Jewish state. It's as simple as that. Now, that's, once again, I won't say that it's a justifiable thing, but when you're in a hard position like this and you have to concern yourself with the suffering of your own people too, which is, maybe Democrats in America forgot about that. They certainly forgot about homeless Americans. They forgot about homeless Americans, and they forgot about middle-class Americans, and they forgot about, they forget about a lot of things because they just don't care. They just don't care. They care about only a select group of people, and it's okay to be selective about those things because of the group that supposedly has the privilege or whatever it is, however they justify it. But I'll just end with this. If it takes something like that for you to justify the death or the suffering of people that are around you, then I don't think you're cut out to lead anything. And if you're just doing what you need to do to protect the most largest amount of innocent people possible, because I would argue that Israel is not. I heard the ratio was one civilian for every one member of Hamas. That might sound bad, but when you consider the fact that sometime soon I'm going to play some more clips from, if you've never heard of the guy, his name is Musab Hassan Youssef. His father was one of the founding members of Hamas, and he He left the organization. He was at one point a informant for the IDF to mostly, as he's discussed, prevent suicide bombings. He found those to be some of the most deplorable acts that Hamas would encourage from people who were, not as high standing in the organization, and so he would try to alert the IDF when one was about to perform an operation that would be involving suicide bombings. And now he lives outside of. I think he's in America. Actually, he moved out of the region and came to Western countries and told about how dangerous this group was. And one of the biggest things that changed his mind was as he was kind of questioning all these things and eventually ended up kind of wondering if he could even support it anymore. Being a member of Hamas, whose father was such, put him in such a high standing, if he protested that there was any accusation of someone betraying the group, and he said it wasn't me, then they usually more or less believed him. People without a tie like that weren't so fortunate, they wouldn't believe them, and they'd torture them and try to figure out if they actually were a spy working for enemy governments or whatever. And a lot of times they'd torture them to death too. And he sees that Hamas and Islamic extremist terrorists are people that aren't really too concerned with life in general, even of their own people and even of the people within their own organization. It's more important that you kill as many Jews as possible than it is that you take care of your own people or your own fellow religious believers or your own fellow terrorists even. I mean, it's a sick culture. It's an incredibly sick culture, and it's just one that you can't expect a group of people to be forced to live so close to groups. Like, there was apparently people who were working for several of the people in the kibbutzes in Israel that were from Gaza, that came into Israel and would work as gardeners or as people to help clean people's properties or do repair work for them or whatever, and they thought of them as like kind of friends almost. And some of those people were people that told them, and this is the sick part, they told them of certain places where there was hideout or shelters or underground bunkers or underground shelters or whatever it might be. Told them where to find places where people might be hiding. That is not just betrayal. That is on a whole nother level a relinquishing of your humanity entirely to accomplish an ideological end that is by its very nature something so deeply evil. And yes, I'll go to evil, that to just go back to the status quo of where things were before then, whether or not you look at the fact that Gaza has been blown to rubble at this point for the most part, then you're just saying, I don't care if it happens again, which, I mean, there's several people that probably do just openly say that. And I don't know why I don't know how it became so accepted for people to just come out and say that kind of thing, but it really is a situation that, like, you have to know the real, honest, brutal reality of the situation to understand why the measures that are being taken are being actually undertaken by people who oppose Hamas, and it's not because they want to hurt anybody that is innocent. It's because they can't allow, once again, going back to what I said, they can't allow their own people to suffer these horrific and literally inhuman methods of torture and death by having it on your doorstep and having to worry about it every day. It's not possible. So, but going back to what we were talking about before, like this tense relationship has been going on for just before even Trump went into office, but definitely it started ramping up when Trump went into office this time. And it seems like he had kind of put out this agreement with Benjamin Netanyahu that look, we still have hostages there. You still have hostages there. It's time for them all to return home. It's been over a year, and it's time for them to. I mean, well, so it's been a long time now, and it's time to say, look, we need the rest of the hostages back. We need them now, or ceasefire is, as far as I'm concerned, you could do whatever you want. There's no more ceasefire. There's no more anything. Like, it's time to finally lay the hammer down and just finish this job, because the Israeli people have been through enough, and the people in Gaza have been through enough. The innocent people in Gaza have been through enough. And once Hamas is actually out of the picture, at least to an extent that they don't have any meaningful presence there anymore, and they can't effectively continue the brainwashing exercises and the indoctrination in schools and everything else that's been going on there. Once you get to the point where you've gotten rid of that threat of that happening, there's got to be a way for the people that are innocent that live there to be housed somewhere else briefly while the country is rebuilt, because it's rubble. But once it's rebuilt, if they want to return home, they can return home. But there's going to have to be some changes that happen in the area, and it's not, once again, to punish anybody. It's to protect Israel from the threat that's on their door, just from that direction. Because once again, then you got Hezbollah, then you got, even though these organizations have all been damaged, they're still there, and they're not, their ideology certainly hasn't changed. So, you just can't accept that. If you're a responsible leader, then you can't accept a threat like that so close to home. So, but as far as our role in spending, and this is why, I heard the figures, I can't remember exactly what it was, but the actual billions and billions and billions of dollars that have gone to Ukraine for this pointless conflict that should have never come to this, and for it to be used as a cudgel against anyone who is anyone who's more pro, not, we'll put it this way, not like a neocon war hawk, then we have to start recognizing that this is a problem for these countries. But we can't just be the world's piggy bank for people that need money, especially when there's so much corruption already in the area that that a lot of this stuff isn't going for its intended purpose. And so anyway, it's like crunch time's coming, and some decisions are going to have to be made that are going to be very difficult. But I'll just tell you right now, hopefully it goes over well enough for the people to understand that there's times when you try every single thing you can try, and when it doesn't work, you just have to accept the fact that it's inevitable, and it's going to have to happen in a way that's not at all what anyone on either side would want, but it just simply has to be done. So, and I hope that I'm sure that people that really understand the situation are not going to be as upset about this kind of thing, but anyone who's running around, any moron who's dumb enough to be carrying around a sign for gays for Palestine is certainly going to look at this as a return to the apartheid state, or as an ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians, and it's just it's kind of despicable to even really be able to fathom, but that's what it is. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Next week I'll be back, hopefully in a little bit more full capacity, trying to get myself into the schedule again, and I think I'll be successful, but I just I'm gonna need to really because man, like in just the month where I was kind of out of action, so much stuff has changed. And the good news, though, is that one thing that has changed as well is I think I've gotten to a level of better understanding, not just what I'm doing as far as on the show, but being able to have a better grasp of understanding of events, whether they're domestic or foreign in a lot of cases, and be able to break them down and come to a more concrete conclusion that before I would have been maybe a little bit more ambiguous about, and not been able to really state a solid opinion I have over the total situation, and be able to really say something with conviction. But man, since Trump has been back in office, a lot of people have shown their true colors, number one. And number two, the way that the impact of Trump's reelection had kind of been a worldwide shockwave moment and caused so many things to change is so intense and palpable that I've noticed people who even if you had told them some good news would not have even considered it a big deal, now are actually able to hold on to some kind of hope that things might be heading in a much better direction in the near future. And I have to agree that, yeah, this is not a 2016, 2017 Donald Trump cabinet. This is a Donald Trump who has been in the swamp, has been in the aftermath of a incredibly contentious departure from the White House, and has been demonized by just about every type of media organization in the country, and he knows what to expect, and most importantly, he knows the signs to look for of people that you can trust and that you can't trust. And so far, people like Pam Bondi and people like Tom Holman and Kristi Noem, these are people that are so much better than the people that he had in his first administration. They are serious people that have had their nose to the grindstone every day and have been committed to the agenda that President Trump ran on, and it's only been just under a month, but my God, it's been a night and day difference already from the first administration. And that goes for the polling too. Man, people are really behind him, like they were never behind him in his first term. And so not only does he have the right people in his cabinet, but the people of this country have more faith in him than they ever have before. So it's looking very good, and there's finally some reason to be optimistic. So, and I got to say, it's contagious. I kind of feel it too. Even someone like me who's very pessimistic a lot of the time has been feeling the sense of optimism in the air. So thank you guys very much. I'll be back tomorrow since even though I don't do Sundays, I'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully, next week I think we'll be able to deliver a much better overall week for the show next time around. So hopefully I see you guys tomorrow. Until then, have a great Sunday afternoon, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care of yourselves, and have a good one. Peace.
I can't read it. There's no words on it.
Okay. Sure.
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean? To play us out. What is?
For credits.
I don't know what that means. To play us out. What does that mean?